And after several years of stepping away, pivoting, and remaining largely silent publicly, I need people to understand something clearly. I did not step back because I was afraid. I did not step back because I was ashamed of what I was saying. And I certainly did not step back because I was lying or making things up. I stepped back because when you are carrying allegations and experiences with the kind of weight that I am about to share with the world, you cannot rely on memory alone to hold that testimony together. Memory is powerful, do not get me wrong, but memory alone is not enough when systems begin protecting themselves. Memory alone is not enough when your story is questioned, attacked, dissected, and denied by the very people responsible for harming you, and by those who have chosen to believe the narratives created around those abusers. And this is exactly what I learned the hard way in 2022 when I came out to share my story the first time. Because memory alone does not prove what happened to somebody. Documents do. Records do. Government files do. Psychological reports do. Internal emails do. Case notes do. And at the beginning of this year, I finally learned how to properly retrieve my child and family services documentation through access to information and freedom of information requests. I will make a separate video explaining exactly how I filed those requests so that other survivors and former foster youth in care can begin retrieving their own records as well. But for now, I need to speak about what I received. Because what I received is something that lawyers, media journalists, talk show hosts, and even professionals working inside these systems have described to me as extraordinarily rare. Around 5 months ago, I received over 1,085 pages of government-documented child and family services records spanning my life from 1999 to 2012. These, as you can see beside me here, are not summaries. They are not fragments. They're not selective disclosures. Thousands upon thousands of lines of internal government documentation. Psychologist reports, social worker notes, internal emails, behavioral reports, contact logs, abuse disclosures, investigative findings, documents that acknowledge abuse occurring inside the very foster home I had spent years reporting abuse within. And what shook me most was not simply what was documented. It was the fact that they believed me and still nothing was done. And that is what changes everything. Because throughout my life, I was repeatedly positioned as troubled, behavioral, difficult, reactive, and unstable. But buried inside their own records are repeated acknowledgments that the behaviors they were documenting were psychologically consistent with a child living in trauma and danger. So the government knew, they documented it, they substantiated it. In fact, within these reports and documents, their own reports, my disclosures were described as heavily substantiated. And in administrative and in legal language, that matters, because substantiated means that there was enough supporting evidence and credibility and probable cause for immediate intervention. Enough so that Child and Family Services removed me and the other foster children from that foster home immediately. That same day, and according to these records, that foster home was subsequently shut down and cut off from ministry resources following those disclosures. So this creates a few questions that have haunted me for years. If they believed me, then why did they do nothing? Why was there no accountability? And why was there no justice? Why was I repeatedly told that there was nothing that I could do? And why was I continually portrayed as the problem while the system protected itself? Because according to these records, They were already holding the very evidence that could have validated my experiences years ago. The reports, the disclosures, the psychological assessments, the documentation they used to monitor me, label me, and manage my life throughout my childhood. And yet, every attempt I made to access those records was resisted. I was told documents needed to be heavily redacted. I was told I could only review them in supervised settings. I was told I could not bring recording devices, could not have my phone present, could not independently possess documentation regarding my own life. And I want you guys to imagine that for a moment. Because being monitored and documented throughout your entire childhood by the government, while simultaneously being denied access to the very records documenting your own abuse. It was not until the beginning of this year that I finally spoke with an RCMP officer who instructed me on how to properly begin filing complaints through the Human Rights Commission process, alongside the civil proceedings that will follow and the criminal proceedings currently being explored as well. And now that I am back publicly, I want to make something else extremely clear. The reason that I am reading from a script is not because I lack the words for what happened to me or my experiences. Trust me, I have more than enough words for what happened to me. I am reading carefully and deliberately because legal processes demand precision. Emotion alone is not enough inside systems built on documentation. You speak to what can be proven. You speak to what exists on record. You speak carefully, factually, and intentionally, and that is exactly what I'm doing. Everything I speak about moving forward will be grounded not simply in memory alone, but in documented evidence, in records, in reports, in their own words. So if you want to challenge the systems that have operated for decades as though they are untouchable, stay. If you want accountability inside child welfare systems across Canada, stay. If you want to witness what happens when someone finally gains access to the records they were never expected to see, stay. Because this issue is far larger than me. There are thousands of children across this country currently living inside systems that exercise enormous authority over every aspect of their lives. Children who did not choose apprehension. Children who did not choose government intervention. Children who did not choose institutional care. But once inside those systems, every part of their lives becomes documented, controlled, assessed, categorized, and managed by adults holding enormous power over them. And far too often, when those systems fail, the children carry the consequences while institutions protect themselves. What happened recently in Ontario is proof that these issues are not historical. They are current, active, ongoing. The system did not necessarily become safer. In many ways, it simply became better at protecting itself from scrutiny. But scrutiny is here now, and I believe the position I am in, with the volume of documentation I have received and the evidence contained within it, places me in a unique position to become a voice for people who never received the same opportunity. People who were silenced, people who gave up, people who became exhausted fighting systems designed to outlast them. And if my story can help even just one person keep fighting for truth, for accountability or healing, then every painful step that it took me to get here mattered. My name is James Minot, formerly known as David Arndt, and this is A Childhood on Record.